Hello.
Hi guys, welcome to term 3, week 3. I am Paige.
I'm Eden.
Damian.
And so this week I think was definitely about making sort of connections between the characters and like our relationships between characters, and like I think definitely for sure stuff about like how this like the overall narrative story and like our understanding of it was definitely like we knew much more about it than we did in like week 3, because I think week 2, because I think week 2 still had that sort of like focus on like the Stanners, like understanding your character, like sort of coming up where they've come from, like understanding like who they are. But like this week was definitely more of a focus on like the narrative, like relationships between character and cast, and like so it gives more life between scenes, because like you know how you feel about different like people and characters, and I think that was definitely an improvement. Like it was like quite a drastic improvement, I will say.
Definitely,
So let's go around. What were we confident, not confident in? Strengths, weaknesses. Paige, do you want to start?
I would say I think that the scenes were going a little bit more smoother than week 2 and all that, and it was getting a lot more better, and I can see the improvement. And
It's because I think also because people were starting to like memorize a few lines. Like obviously we were still there with like our scripts in hand, but I think there was more of a focus on like memorizing lines as like the date for the like show got closer and closer.
But I would say that it was running smoother, and it was much more better getting through out the weeks in a way. Like I could see the improvement, and I started to improve as well. I would say though I did have a little bit of scaredness, because I would see Damien perform, and with Damien's performance I was kind of like, how am I going to meet his standards? How am I going to be like
because you
him?
guys were playing the same
character, and I could see everyone smiling and laughing for him, and I was kind of like, I can't do flips, I can't do any of that, like the energy, and I'm kind of like, I just look like a small little pea, like, and all that. So it felt like that in a way.
So that's, you would say strengths is like sort of how more smoother it's going, and like weaknesses was more of like
I kind of kept on putting myself like
comparing yourself. But I think that was definitely like somewhat of a weakness, because like not necessarily like your acting, but like comparisons between casts, because you both, like from my perspective, you both play the characters very differently. So trying to like mimic each other isn't gonna work, because you two are like very like different as actors, very different as people. So like trying to play the exact same character isn't gonna work, because you both have like different interpretations. Damiane, what would you say was your strengths and weaknesses?
Well, I would say I would say my strength was the doing flips, jumping over people. That was a first for me. My weakness was learning lines, because I am absolutely terrible at learning lines. But I still got it on the show. So
you did get it on the show. I think learning lines was a bit of a thing for our whole class. Because like people who like, especially like main characters who had like upwards of like 200 lines, like paragraphs, massive monologues, like that stuff was like harder to remember. I didn't think I struggled as much with lines, and I think I had gotten most of them down by week 3, apart from like my big paragraph at the end of the riot scene, so I wasn't too concerned. But I definitely knew that was like a thing we weren't confident in as a class.
Sorry to cut in, I would say another weakness was I kept on having tongue twisters. I cannot say certain words.
Like Gaddafi in the Desert Hell.
No, Desert Hell I could say, but it was
Gaddafi and
Saddam.
Saddam down the sewer well.
So I kept on pronouncing it like the freaking meet in a way.
I definitely say my strengths this week was like the fact that I think in previous weeks I would sit in rehearsals, like I'd watch other people act, etc., like to like get involved, like understand what props we were using, like. But I think this week was definitely where it like clicked for me, like understanding like where different scenes went, and like I knew the whole narrative. So when I'd see scenes, I'm like, oh, okay, so they're doing this, then where am I going to be? What transitions am I doing? Even though the transitions were still like they weren't all there yet, because they were definitely changing between Leanne and Ryan. I was definitely putting more effort in rehearsals to like understand like what I'm doing, where I'm going, like what, like in relation to this scene, how many scenes is it until I'm on, and then what am I doing, what entrance do I have, etc. And I think that was definitely a strength of mine. Like obviously I think another one of my big strengths was the fact that I like, it was hard as a class. I don't think most people were a weakness a lot of people had was just like not showing up to rehearsals, because I think a lot of people were like, oh, I'm gonna sit in this classroom all day and we're not gonna get to my scene, so there's no point in me coming in, because there's just like, this is a rehearsal, I'm not in this scene, so there's no point. When in fact it is like, there is a point of you being there. It's for you to like see how the other people act, like magpie ideas, like support your classmates, like understand the story, like rehearse, practice while they're rehearsing, and practice doing coursework while they're rehearsing and practice. Like there's a lot of different other reasons that you could to be in, and I just don't think people understood that as much, and people weren't coming in. But I think a weakness of mine for sure was not having all of my lines down at that point, because I have the least amount of lines of anyone in the show, and so because I was still like hiccuping on some lines, I was like, it's a bit like, you know, even though we did have ad-lib in the show that I did, so I like, you know, I had a few more things I said, even if they weren't necessarily lines. I definitely think I should have had all of my lines down by that point, and I cannot tell you why I didn't.
Oh, I must say though, what kind of gave me anxiety, because they said that the stage and set might change in a way.
Oh yeah.
Because basically we had it like as like a cube shape, and then next minute it was going to be a diamond because of
the seating and like safety with the seating, and
then
like
having other people have their show after us, and their show kind of needed that same somewhat setting, so then they have more ins and outs. So the society was more thing, and then we had to kind of adjust it in a way if we was to change it. So we were all thinking, how do we change it to the standards of the staging?
Like how are we entering now? How are we exiting now?
Yeah.
Like it's also in terms of like a shift in the way we act, because it's like, okay, which way am I facing now in relation to the audience? Because you don't want to be staring down like the places where you enter. You want to be staring down where the audience is.
Yeah.
And like making connections there. But now we had to like completely rethink any blocking and staging we had done beforehand, which was a bit of a, you know, like 3 weeks in for the 5-week project, it was a bit of like a in terms of that. But I definitely think we persist in that, and I think that was the strength we had, just resilience.
Damien, do you want to do any more talking?
I think I've said everything.
I think you've said your piece. You've said your piece.
I've said my piece.
Last thing, I definitely think relationships between characters improve. Like, I know, like, me and Megan, Holly, Shauna, and you with, like, both of you with Riley, like, Maxwell, Titus, that was already, like, cemented, like, day one. But I think it's, like, getting to know how they do their character and, like, the differences between that, like, obviously with Riley, but also because, like, you get to, like, be, like, closer as characters. I think now it's, like, not as much of a focus on your character necessarily, but how your characters work together, especially within our little duos, and, like, doing stuff, like, you know, as comic relief, like, coming up with stuff was definitely a thing that we were able to do this week, even if it was just, like, the starts of it for week 4.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.